This is Ron with Stay Sharp again. In this video we're going to be looking at the Alaskan Maasai broadhead. A viewer sent me this head to make this video to sharpen it, and I always have said that I can get a head sharper than the factory, and boy, I tell you what, I think I've met my match here. This head is really sharp. I've been bow hunting long enough that I remember back in the day when we used to be afraid of our broadheads, and we used to have a broadhead wrench to put them together to keep us from slicing our fingers up, and this head is that. It is sharp. Good steel, good edge. I'm really impressed with this head. So we'll go through the standard protocol of looking at it under the microscope to check the edge. We will then put it through the sharpness tester, and then we're going to talk about how to sharpen it. So let's look at the edge first. So now we've seen the edge under the microscope, and it is a great looking edge. Let's see what we get from the sharpness tester. .195. That is a new record for out-of-the-box sharpness for any head that I have tested thus far. Only one other head has come close at, I think, 206, and that is very, very sharp. So the side with the X on it is the side that I'm going to try to best, and that is going to be tough. So stay tuned. Alright, so the method for sharpening this head would be the C guide, and as you can see I've got it in this position, and regardless of the grid, I'm just going to show you the wooden dowel, and hopefully we can focus on that. But that's how we look to the factory edge in that position. You can play around with whatever you want. If you want to drop it down here to get a little bit shallower, you certainly can do that. If you want to wrap, like 4 or 5 inches of tape on the roller, you can go from this edge to a little bit steeper with some tape. I did a video on single bevel edges and their ability to withstand the side load. I'm going to link that in the description of this video, because you'll care about this. This is a little bit low. It's not as strong from a side load standpoint, and that'll make a lot of sense when you watch the accompanying video that's in the description. But it seems kind of silly to show you how to sharpen an already sharp head. But imagine this head is dull, you've passed through an animal, you've nicked it up. With the kit we include this double cut file. Alright, so that would fit between the rollers, and you have the ability to sharpen up that side. We also include a ceramic buffing stick, right? And you would roll that along the edge to sharpen it. We're also, in the kit, has a wooden dowel. Now the wooden dowel has 2 purposes. One is to rub it with buffing compound, and when you do the buffing compound sharpening, you would only use a pulling stroke. You would never try to cut in to the wooden dowel. It will only cut off the buffing compound and cut the wooden dowel, so you wouldn't want to do that. But the other nice thing about it is you can take any grit of sandpaper, and we sell 5 different grits on our website, and cut small sections of it, wrap it around the dowel, and then you are able to make small round files in any grit that you care to, and it's the same action. Drag it across the edge, it fits between the goalposts, and then you can make little round files out of wet dry sandpaper in any grit you care to. We sell 240, 400, 800, 1200, 2500. So if it's really damaged, of course, you'd go with the file. Then pick up some sandpaper and all the grits, and you can decide based on how dull you are what grits you'd want to start with. When you do that, you will develop a burr on the back side of this edge as you sharpen, and whatever grit you're developing the burr with, you want to break it off. So here I've got the crock stick. When I've done the crock stick burr, then I would lay the crock stick flat on here and drag it across this edge to break off the crock stick burr. So at every grit you would generate a burr as you resharpen this head. And then in this case crock stick, and then I showed you the crock stick on the back. The last step, of course, is the buffing compound on the dowel. There's no real burr to break off after buffing, but that's how you produce a mirror edge. So I'm going to go through this. There isn't going to be a lot to do on this head. This is the side mark with the X. I'm going to essentially use the buffing stick and the ceramic stick. There's really no need for any grit on here. This head is incredibly sharp. I'm just trying to get it sharper. But I needed to show you the methods of sharpening this head in the Type C guide. Alright, I've spent a little time sharpening this now, and I gotta tell you, I worry that I might have met my match. I'm sharpening on the side with the X, and the ceramic stick was doing fine, the buffing was doing fine, but I actually have, because I sharpen a little bit of everything in all sorts of grits, I had bought some lapping films. This one happens to be 7,000 grit. This one happens to be 50,000 grits, and I can't recall how many microns that is. But I bought a bunch of these sheets. I ended up cutting off a thin strip of both of the 7 and the 50,000 and wrapping them on the wooden dowel, and use that as my fine little file to create an edge. What is essentially a mirror's edge. And I don't know if you can see it here, but it's a mirror's edge, and we'll look at it under the microscope so you can appreciate that. And the same thing on the back, you'll see a bit of a mirror's edge reflection on that edge. But it took a lot to best what they did, and that's overkill. I mean, that's splitting hairs. How it came, you know, when you resharpen this head after you've taken an animal with it or practice, if you stopped at 2,500 grit, that appears to be about what they had on here, and that's what I typically do, 2,500 grit. That would be all the abrasive you'd want to use, and then the buffing compound and the stick would get you back to a factory edge. Okay, well, you've seen the edge that I produced under the microscope. I was always working on the side that I marked with the X. It is literally a mirror edge along the very cutting edge. So now it's time to see if I was able to best their factory edge. .103, that is my best edge to date. And I tell you what, it took a lot of work for taking off no material. It was a huge endeavor in time because I was working with such fine grits and literally removing no material, just massaging that edge. But this is a fantastic broadhead. Super sharp out of the box. Now, I've said it more than once, out of the box sharpness is just a snapshot in time. When you open the box, that edge is great at that moment. But then you're going to practice with this head. It's going to dull, so you're going to need to sharpen it. Then you're going to kill an animal, and these are an expensive investment, so you're not going to throw this head away. You're going to have to sharpen it again. So the out-of-the-box sharpness is a great thing, and these guys really care about their edge. But then after that, you own it. For the life of this head, for as long as, until you lose it, you need to re-hone this edge, so you better get used to it. And I've shown that you can produce a really nice edge on this head. Kudos to them for making a fantastic broadhead. Alright, I had such a good time sharpening this edge that I thought I would see if I could split a hair with it. Well, as soon as I touch it, it cuts it. Yes, I did. That is sharp. So the sharpness tester, that happens to be a hair out of my very graying beard. The sharpness tester told us we had a great edge, and being able to split a hair is a tough feat with an edge like this. But we have a mirror edge now, taking no weight off of it, versus the factory edge, which again is also just fantastic. They did a great job. As I normally do, I weigh the head before and after sharpening. In this case, I did weigh it before. I just forgot to video it. It was 200 grains before we started, and I don't expect that weight to have changed at all. 200, so it weighs exactly the same, which is to be expected. So this is a really nice head, came with a really nice edge. I was able to improve upon it a little bit. When this head gets nicked up, after you've shot an animal and you hit a rock or something, you'll be taking off more weight when you sharpen it. That's not a problem. You can always get weight washers to add behind it should you take off too much. So I'm impressed with the head. I'm happy with the edge that I sharpened. The only downfall is I got this head so sharp that the shadow from the blade cut one of the legs off my chair. So that is a sharp head. Well done to the Alaskan company making the Maasai broadhead. You did really well. Thanks for watching.